"Look at you, Emily," murmured her biological father, his eyes radiating admiration and tenderness. "You have faced the fiercest storms and emerged stronger than ever." Emily smiled, feeling the comforting warmth of love and acceptance enveloping her like a warm embrace. "I learned that light always finds a way to shine, even in the darkest places," she said, her voice resonating with a wisdom beyond her years. And so, as night fell over the small town, Emily's story echoed like a hymn of hope and renewal. Each page turned revealed, the chapters of her journey of self-discovery and transformation, a journey that proved that even in the depths of darkness, the light of redemption and forgiveness never ceased to shine. And so, dear reader, Emily's story reminds us that even in the darkest moments, there is always a light to guide our way. Her journey of redemption and forgiveness is a powerful reminder that we can overcome any obstacle if we hold on to hope and courage in our hearts. If this story has touched you in any way, share it with your friends and family. Leave a like to spread this message of love and forgiveness to even more people. Don't forget to subscribe to receive more heartwarming stories like this one, and please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice is important to us. May Emily's story continue to inspire and illuminate the hearts of us all. Thank you for embarking on this journey with us. Emily fought to stay on her feet, her determination shaken, but not broken. She knew she needed to find a way to confront the demons that haunted her before she was consumed by them. Determined not to succumb to the weight of the hatred that surrounded her, Emily sought refuge in the community that surrounded her. Every step she took was like a plunge into unknown waters, full of uncertainty and apprehension, but also of a fierce determination burning in her chest. With the warm support of supportive friends and neighbors, Emily found strengths she never knew she possessed. Words of encouragement echoed in her ears, like the gentle whisper of the breeze caressing the leaves of the trees. "You are not alone, Emily," said Sarah, her closest friend, her eyes radiating genuine compassion. "We are all here for you, ready to face this challenge together." With her heart pulsating with newfound courage, Emily lifted her head and marched towards the house she once called home. Each step was an act of defiance against the chains that bound her, each breath an affirmation of her unwavering determination. Standing before the weather-worn wooden door, Emily gathered the courage to face the confrontation she had so feared. Her fingers trembled slightly as she touched the cold surface, her heartbeat echoing in her ears like war drums. As she entered the room, the curious gazes of those present turned to her, as if awaiting the unfolding of a long-awaited drama. Emily took a deep breath, gathering the words she had rehearsed in her mind countless times. "Mrs. Montgomery," she began, her voice firm echoing through the walls. "It's time for us to confront the truth we both fear." Silence descended upon the room, thick as a fog hanging in the air. The adoptive mother's eyes narrowed in suspicion, her demeanor a mask of disbelief and fear. And then, with a deep and determined breath, Emily revealed the truth that had haunted her, unveiling the secrets that had been kept in the shadows for too long. The collective murmur of the crowd enveloped them like a sinister melody, as the truth echoed like thunder in the stormy sky. At the height of the emotional turmoil surrounding Emily and Mrs. Montgomery, a breath of hope penetrated the depths of the small town. It was as if the winds of change were blowing with renewed strength, bringing with them the promise of redemption and reconciliation. In the town's central square, where the sunlight danced among the ancient trees, a solemn man stepped out of an old car. His steps were steady but filled with a quiet determination, as if he were about to face a battle that had lasted for years. "Who is that?" whispered the curious onlookers watching from their windows, their voices muffled by anticipation. Emily, whose heart was still in tatters from the devastating revelation, felt a shiver run down her spine as she recognized the approaching man. Her eyes widened in shock, mixed with a spark of hope long forgotten. "And he," Emily stammered, barely able to find the words to express her surprise. Mrs. Montgomery, by her side, also watched the man with a mixture of disbelief and fear. Her normally impassive demeanor was now marked by the tension of knowing that her dark past was about to be unearthed. The man, with his serene demeanor and eyes full of determination, approached Emily and Mrs. Montgomery, as if about to unravel the secrets that had long haunted their lives. "Emily," he said, his voice firm but gentle as a summer breeze. "I am your father." The impact of the revelation echoed like a shockwave through the small town, reverberating in the hearts and minds of those who witnessed the unfolding events. Before the imposing figure of the man declaring himself her biological father, Emily found herself enveloped in a tumultuous mix of emotions, while Mrs. Montgomery, tormented by guilt, trembled like a leaf in the wind. Emily's silent tears mingled with the tears of the adoptive mother, forming a river of regret and reconciliation. Faced with the overwhelming weight of the past, Mrs. Montgomery found herself confronted not only with her own shortcomings, but also with the devastating consequences of her cruelty. "Emily," she murmured, her voice choked with remorse. I am so sorry. For all the cruel words, for all the unjust punishments. I didn't know how to deal with the pain I carried in my heart." Emily looked at the woman she once called mother, her eyes brimming with compassion and forgiveness. "Mother," she said, her voice soft but firm, "I understand. I forgive you." The words echoed like a melody of redemption, enveloping them in an embrace of forgiveness and acceptance. Mrs. Montgomery, with a heavy heart, vowed to do everything in her power to repair the damage she had caused, to heal the wounds she had inflicted. And so, amidst tears and hugs, mother and daughter began to tread the path of reconciliation, knowing that forgiveness was the first step towards healing. Under the comforting embrace of her biological father and the warm embrace of the community that surrounded her, Emily felt enveloped by an aura of safety and love. Every gesture of affection and every word of encouragement was like gentle balm on the wounds that had long scarred her heart. "We are here for you, Emily," her father said, his eyes brimming with pride and tenderness. "Together, we will overcome any obstacle life presents us." His words were like an anchor, keeping her steady in the face of the storms that could still arise. With each passing day, the shadow of the evil mother began to lose its strength, dissipating slowly like the mist at dawn. In the small town where once reigned pain and bitterness, now sprouted hope and true love. The smiles that had hidden behind masks of sadness began to reappear, illuminating the faces of those who witnessed Emily's journey of redemption. And so, as the sun set over the green hills and the world was enveloped in a mantle of serenity, Emily found the strength to forgive and begin to heal the wounds of the past. Her heart, once weighed down by pain and loneliness, now overflowed with hope and love, ready to embrace the future with courage and determination. In the twilight of Emily's tumultuous journey, as the shadows of the past slowly dissipated, the true essence of her story was revealed. It was not just the painful saga of rejection and suffering, but rather a powerful testimony of redemption and forgiveness, shining like a guiding star in the darkest skies. In the quiet countryside town, where sunlight danced among the verdant hills, resided a home that hid dark secrets. The wooden house, with its closed windows and dark curtains, sheltered a woman whose frosty countenance rivaled the rigidity of the surrounding walls. Mrs. Montgomery, as she was known, possessed a beauty marked by time, now eclipsed by an aura of coldness and mystery. Every feature of her sculpted face seemed to carry the weight of unspeakable secrets. By her side lived Emily, a young woman of sensitive soul and eyes that held the mysteries of her journey. Her presence was like a gentle breeze in a house many avoided. The shyness that surrounded her was but a curtain hiding the kindness and strength that resided in her heart. As the sun settled over the distant hills, Mrs. Montgomery wove webs of darkness around Emily, turning the home into a labyrinth of torment and pain. Every sharp word, every cutting glance, was like blows that tore at the young girl's soul, leaving her lost in a sea of confusion and sadness. "Emily, you are a burden I reluctantly bear," Mrs. Montgomery would proclaim, her voice cold echoing through the empty corridors of the house. "If only you had been a daughter worthy of pride, perhaps I could have found some joy in this monotonous existence." Emily lowered her eyes, trying to contain the tears threatening to overflow. I'm sorry, Mother," she murmured, her voice as gentle as the whisper of wind through the leaves of the trees. I just wanted to be loved. But the words seemed to evaporate into the air, dissipating without leaving traces of compassion. And so, the shadow of the wicked mother continued to loom over the small town, obscuring any ray of hope that might illuminate Emily's path. From the moment Emily crossed the threshold of that gray house at the age of 6, Mrs. Montgomery unleashed a silent storm upon her life. The girl, so small and fragile, found herself trapped in a whirlwind of cruel punishments for every misstep, every misspoken word. The voice of the adoptive mother echoed like thunder in the dark corners of the house, proclaiming that Emily was nothing but an unwanted burden, a shadow that clouded her existence. "You are an intruder in this house," Mrs. Montgomery would rage, her eyes flashing with repressed anger. "A burden that should never have been placed upon my shoulders." The words cut like sharp blades, tearing Emily's soul into pieces. Every punishment, every humiliation, were deep marks engraved on her skin and in her mind, incessantly reminding her of her insignificance in the eyes of the only mother she knew. But even in the midst of the storm, Emily sought refuge in the dusty attic, where the shadows seemed to dance to the sound of her own lamentations. Trembling hands, dirty with dust and despair, reached out towards a box forgotten by time, hidden under a mountain of forgotten blankets. With a hesitant sigh, Emily lifted the lid, revealing a treasure hidden among the ruins of the past. Letters yellowed with time, and a faded photograph emerged from the darkness, like ghosts rising from their silent graves. "What is this?" Emily whispered to herself, her trembling fingers tracing the worn pages of the letters. Each word was a distant echo of a lost time, a glimpse of a story she had never imagined existed. And at the center of it all, in that faded photograph, was a radiant young woman, with the same sad eyes as Emily, beside a man whose face was unknown to her. The mystery hung in the air, as thick as the dust that danced in the dim light filtering through the cracks in the attic. "Forgive me, my dear, for all the lies and cruelties I have committed. May you find the peace you so deserve, away from the shadows of the past that threaten to engulf us. With love, Mrs. Montgomery." The words, stained by the tears of the mother Emily once believed she knew, echoed like a silent lament in the dusty attic. She could barely contain the tears threatening to overflow, her heart pulsating with the pain of a truth long hidden. And beside the letters, like a silent witness to the unfolding story, was the faded photograph. A radiant young woman, with the same sad eyes as Emily, next to a man whose face remained unknown. The enigma of the past hung in the air, enveloping them in its relentless embrace. Emily's heart hammered in her chest as she faced the woman she called mother, whose eyes now reflected a mixture of surprise and fear in the face of the young woman's determination. "What do you know?" Mrs. Montgomery growled, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and fear. "How dare you invade my deepest secrets?" Emily stood firm, her eyes shining with a determination that surprised even herself. "I know who I am, Mother," she declared, her words echoing in the tense silence that hung between them. "I know the truth." The adoptive mother shrunk back at the relentless accusation, her defenses crumbling under the weight of the revelations that now unfolded before them. "You don't understand, Emily," she whispered, her voice trembling with restrained emotion. You are my daughter." Emily held her breath, her hands trembling with the magnitude of the confession. "Your daughter," she repeated, her voice a wavering whisper. "But why have you never told me?" Mrs. Montgomery lowered her eyes, unable to bear the weight of Emily's accusing gaze. "Because I was afraid," she admitted, her voice as fragile as a thread of silk. "Afraid to confront the mistakes of my past, afraid to face the truth I tried so hard to hide." And so, amid sobs and tears, the barriers that separated mother and daughter began to crumble, revealing the secrets buried beneath a facade of cruelty and pain. The broken bond between them slowly rebuilt as they confronted together the demons that haunted them both. Emily's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces at the painful revelation. Conflicting feelings assailed her, like violent waves in the midst of an emotional storm. The pain of rejection, the shock of the lie that had enveloped her all her life, all of it mingled in a whirlwind of overwhelming emotions. As silent tears streamed down her cheeks, Emily found herself plunged into an abyss of uncertainty. To whom did she truly belong? Where was her place in the world now that the foundations of her identity had been shaken? As Emily struggled to find an anchor in the midst of the storm, Mrs. Montgomery, consumed by the panic of the possible exposure of her secret, transformed into an even fiercer tempest. Every word was like a lightning bolt, cutting through the air with ferocity, every glance filled with contempt and despair. The home that was once meant to be a refuge became a battlefield, where suffering was the only constant companion. With every step, every breath, the tension in the air was palpable, like a sinister shadow looming over their heads.